boat is another interesting story, because since it became clear as we went through the process of pre-production that we were going to spend more time on the boat and make it into, we wanted to milk everything you could out of a boat, everything from the sinking to Jason getting on board and all these other things. We had to come up with, what can we do on this boat that'll encompass everything we could have done on land? Okay, we want a disco, we want to have a kitchen, with knives, and we want to have all of these different things. And of course we want to flood it later on, and lightning and rain and thunder and all these things. So we used 2 different ships to do that. And the irony there is that 3 days before we started photography, the main ship that I had picked for our ship, our hero ship, that was going to be the Lazarus, that sails out to sea with them, we lost the ship. There was a location snafu, lost the ship. And I had 3 days to plan all these shots before we started. And so we found another one that turned out to be even creepier than the one I picked, but it was really small. It was half the size. So the trick was to make it look twice as big. And the way we did that is you never see that ship in one shot. The whole thing from stem to stern, you just don't, you see like the front half up to here, you see the back half to here, you see it looking at the deck this way. You never get to see a big wide shot of it. And we got really close with extremely wide lenses and made the bow just go, look really big. And it worked. And it's creepy. It's a creepy old ship anyway. And then we used a different ship for the interiors. And then we built some of it on stage for certain shots. There's a shot where Jason's walking down this corridor, an exterior corridor, and he turns and he looks into Rennie's room. And the camera goes off of Jason and goes shooting through the porthole, and then all the way through the porthole into her room, into a fairly close shot of her. And the way we did that is there was no way to do it on a ship, and we couldn't get any kind of a lens through the little porthole. So we built that on stage, and we built a wall where the porthole's in the middle, and it's like this. And as soon as the camera cleared that little opening, they flew the walls out, so the camera and everybody else could get through and go all the way into it.
Check it out! Damn, reaping yours!
That rowboat that they're in, I'm sitting in that rowboat with him. I got Brian England here. He's shooting the thing, hand-holding the camera, and we're filming V.C. Dupree and all the whole cast in that boat, paddling in. They're actually rowing that thing. It's not fake. There's no CGI. There's no anything. When you see the Statue of Liberty, we're shooting it from that little rowboat. And we did that. We also did the Times Square thing. We built a little subway station, which the actors went. They squatted down and pretended like they were coming upstairs because we couldn't dig a hole in the concrete. We put in the bars and they get down low. And if you watch the movie, you probably can't tell, but they did a really good job of walking like munchkins and then slowly getting taller and taller as they came up these fake stairs into New York. So there's one huge, like a 40-foot crane shot where they come up out of the subway and look around, and the camera comes rising up and does this whole spin around, takes in all of Times Square and ends up back in the center again. So that was great. That was fun doing that. The inspiration for the flashbacks of young Jason and the whole young Jason motif that runs through the movie was tapping back into the first Friday the 13th and the fact that the myth of young Jason drowns as a little boy and comes back to haunt everybody and kill everybody later on in this whole drowning death. I mean, I'm a writer first, and then that was my first movie as a director, but my background before that was as a writer. And so let's come up with a story here that really ties in mythic elements of Jason as a young boy and all that. And so the idea that came out of that was that Rennie was, as a young girl, post Jason dying and all that, was going to get a swimming lesson, as it were, from her uncle, who's a mean guy, and shoves her overboard to teach her to swim because you're either going to drown or you're going to swim. And there's the whole myth of Jason still being down there and young Jason and grabbing her. And she's got this total fear of water through the whole movie. She literally was dragged down by young Jason at one point. And it's freaked her out ever since, and now he's come back, and she's having visions of him again because he's right there on the ship with her, and it trails all the way through to the end of the movie. So we shot the porthole in a way, kind of like a locked off camera, green screen type situation. Only we didn't use a green screen, but it was the same idea where it's a lock shot. We had a porthole, we rotoscoped it out, and then I shot underwater sequences of young Jason, who was played by Tim Merkovich, film editor's son, by the way. And we shot him, and we put a piece of glass in and had him come up and tap the glass like it was the porthole, and we shot it, you know, looking down into a pool with a piece of glass, and he'd come up. And then, of course, we put it and made it look like he was coming straight at the porthole. One of my criteria for this was to inject humor into this particular movie. So, okay, he's going to knock his head off. It's going to be gross. It's going to be spectacular. It's going to be what the fans want. They're going to want to see that decapitation. But how can we do it and put a little twist on it? So the idea is, okay, he knocks the head off. It goes rolling down the side of this roof, flies into the air, bangs into a dumpster, falls in the dumpster, and the lid of the dumpster slams shut on top of it, just for a nice little punctuation. I said, I want to get a decapicam shot. And he goes, what? A shot from the decapitated head's point of view. We put an IMO camera, which is a destructible camera, inside of a giant foam Nerf ball, and we threw it off, and that was one of the most fun things to do, take a camera and throw it off a roof and let it spin around, and so there's a shot in the movie, and it goes by quick, but it's a shot where the world is spinning, and it's from his point of view before his head goes into the dumpster. The mystique of Jason is not knowing what's underneath that mask. Because when we do get to see his face, and it was the scariest thing I had to do, because I'm thinking, this is 8 movies coming to get to this point. Okay, what can we do that hasn't been done? And that's where we thought, toxic waste. Let's melt his face, and it'll be great for a couple things. One is that you won't have time to really get a good, solid look at his face, because it'll be bubbling and melting and steaming and all these things. That'll help camouflage the fact that he's wearing rubber and prosthetics and makeup and, gooey stuff, and we put all the slime on him and all these other things. So I was like, okay, Kane, we'll do this, but, I don't want you to get hurt, and he's, oh, I don't care. So we put on the prosthetics, and we put special chemicals on the mask to interact with the liquid that was thrown on him. So as soon as it hit, it would start bubbling and steaming and all these other things, and he would shake, and you wouldn't stay on the shot too long, and he was such a trooper. I mean, we threw stuff in his face over and over and over, and he's like, more, give me more. Sean started it off. He created an amazing legacy that has endured and continues to endure. And I just feel incredibly honored that I got to be a part of it and got to put a little stamp on it that helped tie up all these movies into a nice package of the Jason movies, of a franchise that is more amazing, that's arguably the best horror franchise, in the history of horror movies. There are only a handful of those franchises that are in modern day terms. And Jason is, arguably right up there. And to be a part of that is just, one of these where nobody will ever be able to take that away from me. And I can't believe that I got to do it. Thrilled that I got to be involved.
Take your good underwear. So you want to try that black shirt?
Sure.
Do this. You just need that outside. You don't have to do it. You can always just put your arm in mine and put the jacket over. I didn't think of that. We didn't have to put it on this arm, we could just put it here, see? Okay. You are ready, kid?
Yes.
All right, now mine, you gonna change your shorts or not?
Looks good.
Okay, so take that down, we'll take
And
this down.
my shorts.
Goes to this one. Which one did you stand on? This one, right?